And Rodolfo, I know that in your situation, in your district in South Central there's a family dynasty, right? So tell us a little bit about that and enlighten us on what you're experiencing there and what you hope to do in the process of your campaign.
Sure, absolutely. So again, thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for being here.
Yeah. Yes, so the area where I am running, which is again California's 40th Congressional District, essentially southeast, a little bit of East LA. This is a region that has been heavily Democratic for a very long time. It started out with my opponent's father. Back in the 40s and 50s, he organized a lot of the community, which is overwhelmingly Mexican-American, Chicanx, Latinx, to become elected to the city council in LA, and then he went on to the U.S. House of Representatives for 30 years.
Wow.
Yes.
30 years?
30 years, yes.
Wow.
So he retired, and right after that, my opponent, his daughter, kind of took up the family tradition. She was previously in the assembly, the state assembly, and then yes, she took over the kind of the same seat, the same district. I mean, obviously it's shifted around a little bit over the decades, but it's just for essentially the same area, heavily Latino, Democratic area. So yeah, I mean, as far as I just came from there, from talking to people.
Wow.
It's a very I think, unique area of Los Angeles, especially in the United States, because the Democratic Party is definitely overwhelmingly represented.
Right.
So there are very few Republican voters, even fewer elected officials who are Republicans in local government. So at least in this area of the country, a lot of the problems can be directly attributed to what the Democratic Party has done at the local level.
Oh, wow. That's an interesting point that a lot of people don't think about, because if you have a crisis, and then a dynasty of decades,
yes.
Why would people think that you automatically at some point are just going to keep voting the same ways, that at some point that's going to change? You, as a Green Party candidate, you're mostly focused on the Green New Deal.
Mm-hmm.
So share a little bit about that, if you would, because that is an incredible document.
Absolutely.
There's nothing else like it. Even, to be honest, Bernie Sanders' platform couldn't even really compare with that.
Right.
Give us your thoughts about how you base your platform personally on what's in the Green Party platform.
Sure, absolutely. So yes, the Green New Deal is a set of policy priorities that the Green Party is generally proposing to pass in perhaps the next session of Congress. So just like the New Deal of the 1930s, the Green New Deal would put people to work. We need something that people are calling a federal jobs guarantee, meaning there's plenty of work to be done all around the United States. We need the federal government to step in and say, hey, we're going to fund you to do that work that needs to be done. So we also need a basic income to go with that, so that people are no longer falling through the cracks. So we have a system that works for everyone and makes sure that people can succeed no matter what happens in their individual situation. So tied to that, those are key things. But what do we establish? We establish a national system of healthcare. That gives jobs to nurses, to teachers, to professors, to so many people that are going to go through that process of educating themselves so they can help others. And then all the research that will go into curing these diseases. The government can direct a lot more funds to the National Science Foundation, for example, to fund cancer research.
That's right.
Instead of the $700 billion that we sent over to the Department of Defense, let's send it over to the National Science Foundation, to the National Institute of Mental Health, so that we can cure these illnesses that are just wreaking such havoc. So healthcare will be a huge component of it, and the environment, the green environment that we desperately need. So in my area of Los Angeles, we have a huge number of factories that are essentially causing cancer, birth defects. I mean, this is like, studies have been done on this.
Wow.
And,
They're using chemicals?
Yes, chemicals,
wow.
hexavalent chromium. It's just, it's horrible. It's a horrible situation. Children have so many brain cancers.
Really?
Yes,
Wow.
and the communities. So it's just a horrific situation. So we need to turn from those kind of factories that are polluting the environment and hurting our health so much to a green jobs, green technology. We know there are so many products that we can base around the green technology, so that we can have a healthier ecosystem and that we can employ people in those good paying jobs that will deliver a better positive environment for youth and for everyone else. So we're talking about how we could possibly, say, pay for the policies under the Green New Deal, progressive policies that we think would help the country. So one perspective offered by Professor Stephanie Kelton, who advised Bernie Sanders on his economics team, is that we simply just do it. So Congress goes through a process of appropriations and authorization bills. So last year in November, they authorized $700 billion for the Department of Defense. They essentially willed that money into existence, since we are a monetarily sovereign country. Unlike, say, the state of California, which constantly has to tax people in order to spend within its its jurisdiction. But the U.S. Congress, since it has this essentially money creating power, can essentially fund its way, can will its way through those funds. It's an interesting, this is I should say again, I'm not an economist. This is a perspective that is out there, and I encourage people to just read up on it, because I think it's very important to just read up on these economic theories from these esteemed professors. So,
as far as a huge industry is obviously renewables and alternative energies to fossil fuels, and that's not the only major contributor to what's called climate change, or the increasing greenhouse gases in the atmosphere. But we won't get into the other ones right now. But in Germany, they are already working on what Jeremy Rifkin calls the third industrial revolution. I don't know if you've heard about that, Sam. But Angela Merkel is actually on board with that. Currently, as of 2018, 32% of their energy is solar and wind generated. And they're on target with all the technology and everything to be 100% solar and wind by 2040. So the fact that when people say that we don't have the technologies, we don't have the abilities to do it, no, we just don't have the education and the resources delegated for that purpose. Because obviously, there's some people that believe that coal is clean. I grew up in Middle America. I saw soot on clean fallen snow in Ohio. So if anybody says clean coal, I automatically know they're out of their mind. There's just no way that even could exist. So what are your views? What should we as a country, and I know California is probably further along than the rest of the country is, but this is also an economic component that will turn the economy around. What are your thoughts on what do we do to get our country on board to a radical transition? And you know why Germany is in that radical transition? Because, and we have earth scientists here in Pasadena. I've had them on the show right here at this table. They have grossly underestimated the impact of the ice shelves breaking. So they've underestimated the levels of the sea level water rising, the impact that will have. So that has forced a lot of the communities that are involved in the third industrial revolution to radicalize their transition programs to solar and wind and that kind of thing. What can we do in this country to get people more focused on that and less on fossil fuel production? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, sure. So this is, of course, a component of the Green New Deal that we've talked about. We absolutely must learn from these other countries that are paving the way forward, like Germany. I know China has also
Yes.
implemented many energy creation instruments. They go down their roads, and as the cars go through the roads, then there's these tiles that generate electricity. So they're I think they're funding their scientists, their engineers to think of these new ideas. There's underwater turbines to generate. So we need to do that. We need to invest in our engineers. We need to send, like Sam was saying, this idea of the school to work pipeline. In Germany, for example, they have that very strong apprenticeship component to their
Yes, they
education
do.
and apprenticeship schools.
All of Europe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
So we don't have that model here. I mean, we've sent students, tend to either college or somewhere else, the military, whatever it is, but we don't have that that tradition of funneling young people into those kind of trajectories that we absolutely need. So here in LA, we need a lot more, for example, subway systems, right?
That's
like
right.
Berlin has an amazing subway system. Why
Yeah.
can't Los Angeles?